If you do wrong, you'll get wrong in return. And if you do right, you'll get right in return. When you're in your own nation, in your own land, you're in a position to get justice. But when you're in another man's country, in another man's land, under another man's flag, and under another man's government, and under another man's court system, you have to look to that other man for justice, and you'll never get it. And Negroes in this country probably are authorities on that.
Well, the police were Southerners. Matter of fact, in the 60s, they were still recruiting from Georgia because we captured some flyers. And they said that white Southerners knew how to handle these Negroes. So the police were impolite, and they were very fast to kill a black for minor offenses such as black youth stealing automobiles. They would shoot them in the back and so forth. I can't recall any particular names, but it was widespread dislike for the police because of their inhumane treatment of blacks.
Is involved. There is no civil rights leader can point to me one concrete gain, practical gain, that black people have made in the civil rights field in this country, not only during the past 10 years, but during the past 100 years. And now, what do I think about King's attitude? King's right-hand man, and I quote, "We have been duped, or have duped ourselves, into believing that the chains have been broken, when in truth we have only been chained more securely. Half freedom has in many instances been worse than no freedom at all." Why, don't ask me what I think about their struggle. I can tell you what they think about their struggle. And they are pointing out that it is becoming more difficult every day for the civil rights leaders to keep the masses of black people nonviolent and long-suffering and patient, and keep them from becoming disenchanted. I hope that answers your question.
Moved out to the Bay Area in order to work in the shipping yards. It was a naval supply, it was called at the time. And that was the reason most blacks moved out, for work, better pay, and a better life.
You're talking about the political aspirations that they had, and the fact that you're named after Huey P. Long. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, my father was impressed with Huey P. Long, even though at the time in the South that blacks couldn't vote. That Huey P. Long was created the first black hospital and medical school. And even though Huey P. Long gave the pitch to the white races that they needed a black medical school and hospital because he didn't want white women seeing black men nude and so forth. My father thought Huey P. Long was using tricks in order to improve the situation for blacks at the time.
If white people can get together and let other whites, help other whites to establish an independent nation right in the midst of dark-skinned people, and then we don't see where white people should be so much against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's solution, not of setting up an independent dark nation in white people's property, but he's asking the opportunity to set up an independent nation on our own continent. Let us leave America and go back home among our own people on our own land and set up our own independent society. But all he says is that this government, which made us slaves, should supply the transportation for us to get back home and give us all of the machinery and the tools necessary for us to till the soil and establish our own agricultural system to feed and clothe our people, our own economy, and in some way become an independent people among our own people on our own continent. This is intelligent.
From the Afro-American Association, it's stemmed the Soul Student Advisory Council, and that was the action group inside of the school. After we created the study classes, I felt that there was a need to do other things to affect the wider community. And I came in contact with the black Muslims. I was very impressed with MALCOMx, and MALCOMx program, or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that MALCOMx followed, program was it was like a 10-point program. Matter of fact, that our program was structured after the pattern after the Black Muslim program. It was minus the religion, and I think that I became disillusioned with the Muslims after Malcolm X was assassinated. I think that I was following not Elijah Muhammad or the Muslims, but Malcolm X himself.
Okay.
In the Newsweek poll, they used Negro interviewers.
You'll find that oftentimes Negroes are as much on guard around Negro interviewers, who usually represent the bourgeois element of Negroes, as they are on guard around whites. Usually Negroes know that when this bourgeois Negro walks through the door, he is not doing something that he's initiated himself, but he's involved in something in which the white man is the absolute author of and has sent him to the Negro community for some information. And when they give that Negro some information, usually they give him the information that they want him to take back to the white man, because that's who he's going to take it back to.
During the period of African liberation, most of the African countries were liberated during the 60s from colonialism. And that we felt that there was a need for not a separate nation, but control of our dispersed communities. And we wanted control of the communities where we were most numerous and the institutions therein. And at the same time that we felt that we were due because of tax paying.
Since we can't get along together in peace on this country with white people, let us separate part of this continent, migrate to that separate territory, let the government give us everything we need to establish our own independent economic system and society, and thereby we'll be able to solve our own problems ourselves and prove that we are human beings and a part of the human family and can do for ourselves what other humans have done for themselves. And then we'll be able to stop blaming the white man for what he has done and stop begging the white man to solve our problems. We'll be able to solve our problems ourselves.
Thank you very much. That's it.
At 3 o'clock, when the school was let out, we would stop the traffic and allow the children to pass. Of course, this was bringing an army of police in the area. They would take over the traffic jam that would occur. So, and also they would attempt to arrest us for bearing arms. But they would become aware, which they were not, that the law provided for us to bear arms at that time. So we went to the city council and asked them to put up a the planning commission of the city council, the Oakland City Council. So the Oakland City Council said that they had already passed some policy to put up a traffic light, but it would be about 5 years from October 66. And we weren't satisfied with that. So we went to the community and gathered a few hundred or maybe even 1,000 or so signatures and took those to the city council. We also would still police, when the police were not there, we would police the area, and every time we would try, the police would take over. So the purpose was served anyway. The traffic light quickly went up in about 3 or 4 months after that event.
But the last part, I didn't say that Elijah Muhammad himself had become blindly jealous. I mentioned that it was his family and the officials in Chicago. Everything that I said always was designed to protect Mr. Muhammad himself. There in the Chicago office, she became pregnant after being there for a year, and she was brought before the Muslim community and humiliated and isolated. And a year later, another secretary, this time one from Lansing, Michigan, came to Chicago. She also became pregnant. She was brought before the community and humiliated and isolated. And because the other person was never brought forth during this court session, it was concluded by all of Mr. Muhammad's followers that it was a non-Muslim who was the other party. In 1960, all 4 of them had babies. All 4 of them had become involved with someone and become pregnant and had these children.
So we talked to the district attorney about his being shot in the back, and we talked to the sheriff, and they both claim that there was a justifiable shooting because if anyone is suspected of a felony and he tries to flee, then he could be detained or captured, apprehended anyway by any means necessary, including murdering the person. And if the sheriffs told us if we wanted those laws changed, we could go to Sacramento to change the law. And we said that we would go to Sacramento and talk to the legislature.
Becoming involved in the Negro struggle in any way whatsoever. Now, the violence that he accuses me of is my tendency to want to participate in the struggle of the Negro at all levels. This is what he calls violence.
One question before we go further with that. Has Wallace Muhammad left the black Muslims?
Wallace Muhammad was put out of the Muslim movement right along with me.
As far as you are concerned, you will accept the fealty, if you will, of any Negro, anywhere, under any conditions.
You have to define fealty.
Well, you won't want them to give you their loyalty.
Not me, their loyalty.
I was a student, and I know sociologically that words, the power of the words stigmatize people, and we felt that the police needed a label other than that fear image that they carried in the community. So we used the pig as a rather low-lifted animal in order to identify the police, and it worked. The community picked it up, and it sort of put the police in another category, a category that was not respected, and a category that the community could deal with, and the police were very offended by it, so it heightened the contradiction between the community and the police.
You have called for self-defense units, rifle clubs,
Oh, yes.
ready to execute on the spot those who threaten Negroes.
I don't think that I said that.
Yes, you did.
No, I don't think I said that.
All right.
I have called for rifle clubs, that I think Negroes should, in areas where the police, whether it be federal, state, or city, have proven their inability or their unwillingness to defend Negroes, the lives and the property of Negroes, then it's only intelligent and it's only right that Negroes protect themselves, and I have encouraged them to buy a rifle and a shotgun, which according to the Constitution is legal.
For what purpose?
Not buy a pistol or something like that, but a rifle or a shotgun, which is constitutionally legal.
For what purpose?
So that at any time, anyone makes any effort whatsoever to brutalize them or attack them or endanger them, they should have something to defend themselves. And in a country that spends, I think, $50 billion a year for defense alone, I'm shocked that there's apprehension over Negroes trying to do something to defend themselves.
Well, who will...
Sensational parts of our movement, they neglected the community programs that were really the basis of our whole organization. They neglected reporting the development of our political our ability to politicize the community. Also, the party grew much too.
Who was Bobby Hutton, and why did his death affect the party so deeply?
Bobby Hutton was the first member of the Black Panther Party. He was recruited at the North Oakland Service Center in October '66. I believe he was 15 at the time. He was our first recruit, and we made him treasurer. And he was like my little brother that I never had. And he was the inspiration of the party, because the party was very youth oriented. And while he worked at the North Oakland Service Center, we tutored him and politicized him. And until he was killed, that I really couldn't imagine, any of our party members being murdered. even though that I knew that risk took place. I was in the county jail at the time of his murder. This was the day that Martin Luther King was assassinated. And after he was killed, then it was like that. I felt that anyone in the party, I felt the party vulnerable. So he was very loved as a youth in the party and as our first member.
Who will determine when the Negro is endangered?
I think that if the government is concerned, instead of being so worried about what the Negro is going to do, the government should stop dragging its feet and take the initiative necessary to eliminate the injustices that frustrate Negroes and drive them into a method of defense such as this.
You've said, Minister Malcolm, you have to expect the Negroes to rise up sooner or later.
Oh, yes.
What does that mean?
Well, just the same thing that it meant in South Vietnam and these other places where you find oppressed people. Sooner or later, they rise up against the oppressor. When the Jews were being brutalized in Poland, there came a time when they couldn't take it anymore, and they fought back. They didn't have too much to fight with, but they fought back. And I think every oppressed people, no matter how meek and humble they are, after you drive them so far, they're going to strike back.
Well, does that mean that you expect they have arms?
I think Harlem has always been armed.
Do you look for violence in Harlem this summer?
Yes, I do look for violence. When you say Harlem, mind you, Harlem is New York City. Queens is Harlem. Brooklyn is Harlem. The Bronx is Harlem. Westchester is Harlem.
I mean, could you not become the leader of this kind of a group?
Were you aware that the federal government was on the Panthers' tail at that point?
Oh yeah, I was very well aware of that. Was one of the reasons that we didn't want the we were.
I'm sorry, if you could just rephrase.
All right. During the period of 68, 69, the federal government had declared all-out war on the party, and they were breaking into headquarters across the chapters, breaking into chapter headquarters across the country, and filming weapons and saying that, look, they have guns. It was never mentioned that the guns were legal weapons. They were doing everything to make the community afraid of the party. And of course, you can't organize when people are afraid of you. So I was inclined to try to develop more local politics, to run local members for various offices, and develop our 10-point program, which was a housing, food, and health program.
Which kind of a group?
A violent group.
It's not a case of becoming a leader of a violent group. I don't think any group, even that's ready, wants violence. It's a case of...
Is this not, Minister Malcolm, a call to action of sorts that you are raising here and now?
I don't have to raise a call to action. And this is what I'm trying to make white people see. They have lost their ability to be objective where the race problem is concerned, primarily because they know that no real meaningful results have come from the Negro struggle. And in defense of this, they always call it or label it violence.
You change of opinion in Malcolm X.
No, today I'm speaking for myself. Formerly I spoke for Elijah Muhammad. And everything I said was, Elijah Muhammad teaches us thus and so. I'm speaking now from what I think, from what I have seen, from what I have analyzed and the conclusions that I have reached.
Then the white man is no longer the devil, and he is no longer bound to be evil.
The Holy Quran teaches us to judge a man by his conscious behavior, by his intention. And my reason for going to Mecca was to get a better understanding of the religion of Islam and what the Quran teaches. So I judge a man by his conscious behavior. I am not a racist. I don't subscribe to any of the tenets of racism.
Then there are good whites and good blacks and bad whites and blacks.
It's not a case of being good and bad, good or bad blacks and whites. It's a case of being good or bad human beings.
Seale and David Hilliard followed this. They were impressed with it. And I was against it. And matter of fact, that started to brew a dissension in the party.
Okay.
Sir, use your common sense. I don't like to go into the intricate details, but here's one witness. One witness tells us how The cop had shot a brother point blank through his groin and through his penis. Shot him in the guts like this. So the brother grabbed the gun. To keep from being shot again, he was wrestling, trying to keep that gun from pointing at him, and someone hit him in his head. And when they hit him in his head, the cop took it and blasted him right through here. It's easy for me to tell how a cop could have gotten shot. They could have shot each other. They went mad that night. They were wild that night. They were like maniacs that night. A Muslim isn't even allowed to have a weapon in his home, much less upon his person. Well, if you are twisting someone's arm, you're the one that attacked. I said, well, as I said, our religion teaches us to always obey the law religiously. I'm going to tell you, our religion teaches us to always obey the law, above all, first and above all. But at the same time, anyone who attacks us, we are allowed to defend ourselves.